Hey everyone, Crisis here. Ever since putting out my world-famous video power scaling Batman from the Arkham video game series, I've received almost non-stop requests to both assess the strength of Insomniac's version of Spider-Man as hosted on the PlayStation 4 and 5 consoles, as well as compare Batman and Spider-Man as to determine who would win in a battle of beloved video game comic adaptations. Well, I'm here to kill two birds with one stone, or maybe more, as I have dug even deeper into the Arkham vs. power scaling since last discussing it, finding a few new feats and statements from both the games themselves as well as recently acquired guidebooks. As for those who have already seen my Batman video, stay on your toes because there are a few surprises to come. As far as discussing Spider-Man, there's a couple of things to go over first. For starters, I'd like to clear up some misconceptions I've seen floating around about Insomniac's Spider-Man's appearances in the Spider-Geddon comic crossover. For context, in the 5th issue of this comic event, the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man briefly trades blows with the superior Otto Octavius Spider-Man, and as well gets attacked by members of the Inheritors, a family of Spider-Man eating energy vampires. To dispel any attempts to scale PS4 Spider-Man any higher than he should be reasonably placed, Otto Spidey was actively participating in a ruse to appear evil, with PS4 falling for it and attacking Otto with the rage he still carried after his betrayal at the hands of his Doc Ock. Otto, on the other hand, wouldn't be trying his utmost to best Peter, with him being unfazed by a kick to the head and then talking down Insomniac Spidey. So, with that, there's no reason to scale Spider-Man to Otto's upper feats from the comics. Also, as far as PS4's ability to not get instantly killed by attacks from the Inheritors, being to scale to Captain Universe Spider-Man, we know that from this very issue, the Inheritors likely can't absorb the energy from Spider-Men that are dead, with the family instructing Otto to bring Ben Reilly to them alive, even waiting until he was conscious to savor his pain in his final moments. This goes to show that Solace, the patriarch of the Inheritors, would not be trying to kill either Otto or Peter in this instance. Not that getting absolutely clapped, literally, by someone should scale you to them in the first place. With that out of the way, we can cover both Batman and Spider-Man. To update the combat speed of the Arkham vs. Batman, within the Batcomputer's entries on Catwoman, we learned that she was actually able to successfully dodge an arc of electricity fired from a militia drone. This is far and away the most impressive speed feat in the entirety of the Arkham series, which is pretty hilarious considering how far you have to dig to find it. With the average speed of electricity sitting at around Mach 1300, this would scale Catwoman's reaction speed at nearly 260 times faster than what I had prior cited for Batman's speed scaling based on his bullet dodging feats. This would all mean that Batman can react to fighters or objects moving at nearly 1 million miles per hour, thus placing him in the massively hypersonic speed category. I'd also argue that this feat isn't really an outlier for Batman either, as he pretty much dodges every conventional weapon fired at him while at his peak of speed in Arkham Knight. And he only ever gets tagged by characters who would simply also scale to this level of speed. Again, remember that Batman's armor in Arkham Knight is faster and more mobile than any prior Batsuit, which is what narratively enables the Fear multi-takedown mechanic in the first place, so citing any potential anti-feat from any games taking place prior to Arkham Knight on the timeline wouldn't be valid, as those stories simply don't reflect Batman at his maximum speed. Insomniac's Peter Parker boasts his own displays of incredible speed, such as his ability to dodge automatic rifle fire, missiles, as well as the lightning blasts from Electro, while aided by his precognition, pretty easily placing his combat speed as well in the massively hypersonic category. While some may argue that this is only due to Spider-Man's spider sense. This is an ability that he innately possesses, so it would reflect his practical combat speed. Batman's best showcases of his destructive abilities are his feats against Bane throughout his career, such as his victories over the mercenary in Arkham Origins, as well as in Arkham Asylum. Bane is a character who is shown violently fragmenting large chunks of thick stone walls in Arkham Asylum. The energy required to both launch Batman through these walls, as well as busting a nearly 9-foot tall hole-in-one, would be around 200 million joules, or small building level. This is further backed up by Solomon Grundy's feat of launching Bane into the atmosphere like he was a member of Team Rocket, with Batman defeating Grundy in Arkham Origins, Arkham City, as well as in tie-in comics. There was also the fact that Bane was getting manhandled by a Titan-enhanced goon, barely surviving the encounter. The same type of Titan monsters that Batman dispatches of numerous times in Arkham City, making Batman's small building scaling very consistent. Batman as well survives the explosion of Arkham Asylum. However, the size of this explosion is inconsistent among its comic appearances, with it likely not yielding all that much kinetic energy when compared to similar feats performed by Batman in the main continuity comics. At best, this would place Batman's durability in the higher end of building level, or around 46 billion joules, but to be honest, it's most likely far lower, judging by the actual amount of damage on Arkham Asylum. The strength of Spider-Man can most be seen through his battles with the lightning-manipulating Electro, a being shown destroying a smokestack just by ramming through it, landing Electro's attack potency at around 15 billion joules, or large building level. Parker can of course combat and defeat Electro, harming him with physical strikes. From here, it's a similar situation as with Batman. Spider-Man is able to harm and defeat characters who scale to himself, such as Rhino, Scorpion, Mr. Negative, all powerhouses who would scale to large building level, who Spider-Man can then physically combat and scale above. Getting down to how I see a fight between these two heroes playing out, I noticed that both combatants edge the other out significantly in certain categories. As for speed, the two are actually surprisingly even, both sporting scaling to the speed of electricity. However, Spider-Man can simply dish out more and endure more of a beating than Batman could ever hope to. Compare Bane's wall-busting feat versus Electro's smokestack showing. That's a nearly 75 times difference in Electro's favor. And this would inform how much stronger Spider-Man would be than Batman, given their respective scaling to their villains. The best case for Batman is to apply charity to his feat of surviving this explosion, and honestly, arbitrarily claim it to be within a comparative range of energy to Electro's feat. So with that, we would have two combatants with relative stats duking it out. Interestingly enough, now I believe Batman has the advantage. To explain it rather simply, Spider-Man has never gone up against someone with Batman's level of martial skill. Even Insomniac's Taskmaster falls short when compared to Batman's hand-to-hand prowess. See, Batman stands as a master of most fighting styles. He can turn practically anything into a weapon. He's a master strategist, an unpredictable fighter, and is even so honed in the art of combat that he can predict the moves of an enemy and counter appropriately. You thought Batman ripping off the spider sense was just a gameplay mechanic? Nuh-uh, that's canon. All in all, if Spider-Man was to engage Batman in a strictly close quarters battle, with both parties possessing equal strength and speed, he would be outmatched fairly quickly. However, both of these characters are very cerebral and have a number of advanced gadgets to help them secure a victory. While I think much of their respective arsenals should be pretty easy for the other to deal with both parties touting things such as concussive blasts, electric attacks, drones, means to hack drones, etc., I actually lean towards Spider-Man when it comes to this category, seeing as his webs act as such an efficient means of detainment. Think about it. What is Batman supposed to do when he's completely cocooned from head to toe in webbing? This stuff has managed to hold up a helicopter with this aerial assault vehicle likely weighing in at around 3,000 pounds. Compare that to Batman's lifting feat of being able to drag around the 850-pound Killer Croc in Origins, and you see that Batman would probably not be able to apply enough force to power out of Spider-Man's webs. However, Batman, if he gets the shot off first, could as well rely on his freeze grenades, exposing Spider-Man to subarctic temperatures, a status effect that Spider-Man has never shown an adequate resistance to in the PlayStation video game series. While remaining in the realm of extra equipment, both characters have access to a wide assortment of alternate costumes and battle armors. However, we have to be careful when granting certain suits to either character, methodically considering what apparel is absolutely canonical within these respective universes. Because at least I don't think there's enough evidence to say that Insomniac's Spidey ever looked like this. For Spider-Man, we have the Advanced suit and the Anti-Ox suit, as these are both integral to the bona fide narrative of the game. We as well have the Velocity suit, as seen in the canon tie-in comic series Spider-Man Velocity. These suits would both increase Spider-Man's overall strength and durability, with the Velocity suit greatly improving Spider-Man's speed and as well allowing the webhead to absorb the kinetic energy from attacks, which would then be converted into more speed for the webhead. As for Batman, the ultimate visual guide to the Arkham universe actually asserts that each of Batman's alternate costumes are canonically accessible to Batman in the lore. So yeah, I guess this is just sitting in a display case in the Batcave. Is that the Grim Reaper? The most useful perks that any of these suits would offer is the ability to store kinetic energy, later releasing it through perfected shock gloves. So, when granting both combatants the best armors at their disposal, Batman has the power to convert his own movements into electric-charged punches, whereas Spider-Man would have either a super suit making him more of a tank, furthering the stat gap between himself and Batman, or an electricity-resistant suit that can do everything Batman's can do, all while making Spider-Man even faster. The honest truth is that even with limited resources, Peter Parker is able to craft more advanced technology than the Arkham vs. Bruce Wayne, at least when it comes to power armor. More times than not, I see Spider-Man besting the Dark Knight simply due to his far greater showings of durability and attack power. However, if we were to ignore this discrepancy, Batman would defeat Spider-Man if the fight were to become a hand-to-hand encounter due to the detective's wealth of combat knowledge and skill. Both fighters possess a relative amount of specialized devices to bolster their abilities. However, I believe this fight would more so come down to Spider-Man's raw power granting him the victory, or Batman's skill providing him the win, if we were to grant him statistics relative to that of Spider-Man's. Now, as a little bonus scenario, I'd figure we'd compare the next in line for each of these characters' legacies, that being Miles Morales and Nightwing. As for Arkham Nightwing's stats, he would pretty solidly scale off of Batman, both in physicals as well as skill. Due to a few factors, like guides stating that Grayson is a near rival to the Dark Knight, as well as the former Robin's ability to fight relatively to Batman against Killer Croc at his strongest, not to mention the Arkham VR showing of Batman subconsciously finding it plausible that Nightwing could have a brutal back-and-forth, drag-out fight with a bloodlusted version of Batman. Nightwing would boast his own specialized arsenal, making use of his exceptional acrobatic prowess, such as taser-enhanced eskrima sticks, sleeping darts, as well as tech inherited from Batman, like his remote electric charge, as well as his weapon disruptor. All in all, the Nightwing of the Arkhamverse is just about dead even with Batman where it counts. He'd as well fall into the small building power category, massively hypersonic speed, all with off-the-charts level of martial arts skill. As for Miles Morales' Spider-Man, we're actually in a bit of an awkward position where he's considerably stronger than his mentor when it comes to his outright durability. See, within Miles' solo game, we see him absorb enough energy, which was stated to be able to destroy the New York City Bureau of Harlem, containing this energy and enduring its explosion, with Miles waking up and talking within seconds. When calculated, this feat would be around 11,000 times more energy than Batman's feats against Bane, and 120 times more impressive than anything Peter Parker would reasonably scale to, at least for now. And I say that because it is more than likely that Peter will simply scale to Miles, or someone Miles scales to in Spider-Man 2. I find it pretty unlikely that the two will simply have no parity, considering they are both sharing the spotlight on the PlayStation 5. So as far as Miles versus Nightwing is considered, there's even less of an avenue for victory here than there was regarding Peter versus Batman, despite Nightwing's equal stature to the Dark Knight. Miles is simply far too durable to be reasonably affected by Nightwing's attacks, and Nightwing is particularly ill-suited to this matchup, considering most of his electric attacks could simply be absorbed by Miles and empower his venom blasts. And with all that said, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, and feel free to hit me up in my Discord server, linked in the description, if you'd like to discuss this matchup, or leave a comment if you'd like to see me cover another versus battle or characters. You can support the channel on Patreon, and I'll see you all next time.